we're going to take up item 2.6 after lunch, so if anybody was waiting for that, that will be, we are going to have a closed session during the lunch break, and then we will take up item 2.6. So we're now going on to the first reading of item 3.1, and I want to turn it over to Chancellor Skinner.
Thank you. President Baum and board members, this item 3.1, it's on page 93 of your agenda, is the first reading of a proposed change to Title V regulations relative to the approval of standalone courses. To present this item is Vice Chancellor Pam Walker.
President Baum, Vice President Estelano, board members, I have with me today Jackie Escajeda, who is a dean in the academic affairs area and who has been working significantly with these two items. Like Kirsten Corbin earlier, we have thrown them into many different things this year, possibly the last few months, because I'm watching student services and instruction. So we really take deep respect for the work that Jackie's doing on this. This standalone item has something that we've been trying to clean up for a significant amount of time. Actually, both of them are. And so we think it will help the curriculum process move a little faster and give some ability for the colleges to not necessarily experiment, but to put together courses that might be of interest in the CTE area as well. So I'm going to let Jackie go ahead and explain it.
So standalone courses are courses that don't belong to an education program. So a lot of CTE areas would want to just have one course in a specific area. So this really serves the CTE community very well. It also serves for people who want to do counseling courses that don't belong to an education program. So bringing back standalone just provides the colleges some more, it gives them more authority to serve their communities.
Let me just give you an example of why standalone would be important. A number of years ago, I was a dean of science and allied health. And the biotech industry was becoming of some interest in Sacramento. And so we had to look for some ways, could we start a whole new program? It's quite expensive. And what were the things we could do? Well, faculty together figured out that if we did a couple of standalones, one class in the fall and one in the spring, we could gauge the interest and the intent of what we were trying to do. It became significantly popular, and they put a whole program together. The biotech industry went from Vacaville towards the city instead of staying with us in Sacramento. But that program is still viable today. It's just not, it didn't meet what we thought it would do, but it's still a very good program. So that gives you a chance to take a couple of courses or one course and gauge the interest and the need.
Well, thank you for introducing that subject. I'm hearing a little buzz somewhere, so if we can address that. And this is a first reading of this too, so this is to get this issue in the public sphere. Member Belinsky, then Member Sumner.
I just want to reaffirm the fact so that we all have that we did previously have the ability locally to approve standalone courses. And it had something to do with legislation and certain requirements that didn't all get completely done. So we're now back trying to reinstate this, which colleges are going to love this. They were begging for it and begging for it because it gives that opportunity to experiment even with a course that you've got a course in a CTE area. You have basic concepts from your advisory board of what should be in the course, but when you experiment with it, you suddenly discover additional things that should be. Or even like some of the basic skills courses, that you want to experiment with a new way of teaching a basic skills course, and you want to accelerate the course, but you've never done that before. And so before finalizing it and doing some kind of okay stamp that this is the end result, you can do this standalone process. And this was so good to see, because I can see lots of people standing and clapping in curriculum committee meetings when this goes through. But I have two questions. One, after the second reading, if we endorse it, and I hope we do in July, how long will it take before this becomes applicable locally? And will there be the same kind of process that happened in the past, where there were certain kinds of procedures you had to follow, namely like you had to train your curriculum committee once a year in what it meant, and you had to do some kind of verification of that training so that people were very aware and knowledgeable of what it was about? So those are my two questions.
It will be, as soon as, if this body approves it in July, we'll put the documentation out for the fall semester. David Morris would kill me if I don't do that. So, and second, the ongoing training that needs to happen for new curriculum committees really should be just that, ongoing. At the Curriculum Institute, doing some work with regions, helping through the IE process, and we're looking at all kinds of ways to get our team into the field to try to make things a little more robust. But we shouldn't have legislation that continues to sunset opportunities and then have us run through various elements and then do it again. This should just be in our regular curriculum process.
Member Sumner.
No, I'm just really excited about this, because I think not only for veterans especially, because I know there are some colleges that already are doing this a little bit, and also with adult education, so this is going to be huge. So I'm just like really, really excited about this, because it'll bring more of the communities back to the colleges and get more of the engagement. So I'm just really thrilled. So thank you for all the hard work you've done.
Any other board member questions?
Approval?
No, we're not.
We're just going to, okay.
Wait, before we do that, so I have a question. I spoke at the joint meeting too, and it was, Member Belinsky was right, and you're right. It's the one line that got the loudest applause was when we talked about removing the restrictions to allow local districts to do standalone course approvals without the Chancellor's office intervention. And we do want to be a system that encourages innovation and on occasion risk-taking. But also, how do we make sure this doesn't start a snowball of lack of system oversight over curriculum? How do we continue to ensure that this isn't the first step in losing a little bit of control over the quality of instruction?
Our colleges typically work very hard in the curriculum process, and if you've ever attended a curriculum committee, we dot I's and cross T's across the system better than anybody, and I think the rigor of our courses are really significant. And yet there could be a time, and we're doing this with public safety right now, digging in and looking through some particulars that may have gotten a little off schedule, and so we're trying to help with that. Our job is, I think, twofold here in the Chancellor's office, to make sure that the training is helpful to the colleges, working with our faculty senate, and they do a great job putting information to the field, but once in a while something will get off. It's our job, too, to spot check and to be helping in that process, and if we see something irregular, then we can talk to them about it. So it's better to be proactive than reactive after the fact. And then I can always bring Mario and his people next, because he's the hammer. So if there's something that really goes awry and we start to see it going awry, there's an apportionment issue that we need to deal with. But we're very clearly proactive first and trying to help them learn if they need to learn more about what to do. But I'm really very confident with people in the way they need to do it. Once in a while we go awry and we can help with that.
I just hope that we're monitoring it in such a way, because as a local district trustee, we've seen how certain courses that were supposed to be about one thing became something taught about something else that didn't have sufficient review, and deans didn't actually see what instructors were putting in syllabi and things like that. And, so,
And let me just say one more thing. The accreditation process is significant around the instructional programs. And so while we monitor and help, the colleges really need to take in earnest concern about their curriculum, because that's where the hammer really comes in, if their accreditation goes awry because of their courses. But this is not in any way going to derail the work that we're doing here. It's just to give some opportunity for colleges to be innovative and see if they can do some different things in their approaches.
thank you. We're going to move to the public hearing section of the, go ahead, Member Malinsky.
I just want to comment again that we did have this ability previously, so it's not brand new. And two, if I'm not mistaken, the courses will still be put into the curriculum inventory system. It's just that there will be some kind of a way that you check that it had standalone approval, so it will be in the state system.
That is correct, especially our new curriculum inventory system. Definitely, it's going to be more robust and will help us catch those things. And our spot checks, yes.
Thank you. We're going to move to the public hearing section. Item 3.1 is a first reading and public hearing for the proposed regulations related to standalone credit course approval. The Chancellor and staff have already provided information on the item. So now, I'm going to bang the gavel. The public hearing on item 3.1, the proposed change to the California Code of Regulations, Title V, Section 55-100, course approval, is now open. The purpose of the hearing is for the Board of Governors to receive comments and testimony from members of the public regarding proposed regulations. At this time, the floor is open for comments from the public.
All right, we have one comment card, David Morris.
President Baum and Chancellor Skinner and board members. I just want to express the Academic Senate's support for this item. I also want to assure Vice Chancellor Walker that I am nonviolent, so I don't plan to kill anybody no matter what happens. However, we do think that this is very important. It is something we've been asking to have this ability returned to the colleges for some time, and especially in light of the strong workforce discussions, the discussions we've had of streamlining curriculum. This is a very important step and something that will be very useful for us. It has gone through the System Advisory Committee on Curriculum, and I want to thank Vice Chancellor Walker and Dean Escajeda for all of their work with us on this to get this item here. And so, again, just want to give my endorsement. And for the sake of expediency, I will just say now that you can translate these comments to item 3.2 as well, because they will apply there too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any additional members of the public who would like to speak on this matter? Hearing none, this public hearing is closed. And this concludes the public hearing on this matter. Yes, and thank you very much. And now we have a technical update from our Chancellor.
All right, so our staff are working on trying to improve this. I know we've been getting, there's a bit of a buzz, and there's been some feedback. So what we're hearing is, one, if people could step back from the mic just a little bit when they're speaking, that should help with some of the static. In addition, if people have phones that are near the microphone, why don't we could try moving those away, that might assist. Again, they're still actively problem solving this, but these are a couple comments we just got. And I still hear the buzz up here, and my apologies for that. We'll try to figure it out.
We move on to item 3.2, the first reading of a proposed revision to the California Code of Regulations, Title V, Section 55051, articulation of high school courses.
All right.
Chancellor.
Thank you. President Baum and board members, this item is a first reading of a proposed change to Title V regulations relative to the articulation of high school courses. It's on page 97 of your agenda. To present the item is Vice Chancellor Pam Walker.
So everyone, this particular item, and Dean Escajeda will work with me on this one as well. This is another one of those cleanup opportunities that, working with our colleagues in the Senate and in our system advisory on curriculum, the purpose of this is to clarify Title V language to ensure students are able to obtain college credit on their transcripts while in high school when they complete a course with an articulation agreement. And Dean Escajeda will give you more information.
So this reg change brings better clarity, so we have more uniformity throughout the state on how colleges are handling these articulation agreements classes with our high schools to be on their transcripts. So when they enter our colleges, they're in a better position to work on an education plan. So this way, they're on their transcripts, and the counselor knows how to help that student.
One of the things that happened in some of our high school districts is if a high school student took a community college class, they might hold the course decision, the grade, in escrow at the high school until they completed their high school graduation. And so you couldn't continue to get courses taken and you couldn't have a transcript if you didn't, if it was put in escrow. So we're just trying to clean up some things. When we say to a high school student who's a junior or a sophomore on a pathway taking a class, they want to see the transcript. And they want to know that they are on the appropriate path to complete. But if you don't ever see it, because it's in escrow sitting away in a file, then it doesn't have the ability to encourage the student to continue to take classes. This is such an old piece of legislation. We kept thinking, we couldn't figure out what it meant when we first started talking about it, was when they said, well, students can't get, their transcripts are in escrow, and you're like, what does that mean? So some school districts don't do it, some do, but this is just to make it more uniform and to really enhance opportunity for our students to see that they're getting something for the work they're doing, and then the opportunity for them to recognize that they've started on their community college path.
Member Belinsky?
Once again, thank you very much. And I also want to thank Dean Escajeda for answering some questions that I sent via email prior. Thank you very much. I just want to acknowledge again with this that this is becoming an increased focus in community college districts to build pathways from high school into college to give many students who wouldn't have originally thought they had college opportunity an opportunity to think about college and to do it particularly in CTE areas so that no, you don't want a degree in philosophy, but you might consider a degree in auto mechanics, and you might realize that you can go on further even after that. So anything that would build the pathways easier for students so that there isn't this kind of thing where the local school district now somehow is putting up barriers. This is wonderful to start this process.
Any further questions? Okay, I'm going to, we'll move to the public hearing. The public hearing on item 3.2, the proposed amendments to California Code of Regulations, Title V, Section 55051, articulation of high school courses, is now open. The purpose of the hearing is for the Board of Governors to receive comments and testimony from members of the public regarding proposed regulations. At this time, the floor is open to comments from the public. We will file the comments previously from the Academic Senate and apply them to this item as well, if we can make a note of that in the minutes. Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak on this matter? Hearing none, this public hearing is closed, and this concludes the public hearing on this matter. I do want to say thank you to Vice Chancellor Walker and your team for moving both of these forward. I know as a former local district trustee also, these will be very welcome updates to the system to allow some flexibility in local districts to better serve the high school students within their local districts. And I think that's very exciting development.
And I would also encourage us to make Board Member Belinsky an honorary academic affairs employee. If he continues to look at this for us, we would be forever grateful, because he really finds the nuances. So thank you very much.
Excellent work. We look forward to bringing these back for approval at a future meeting. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next item. Give me 1 second. We're moving on to item, we're going to skip the Hartnell College presentation. We're saving that for right after lunch. So I was hoping that we could actually go straight to the accreditation update, 4.2.
President Baum and board members, this information item is an update on efforts to implement an improved model of accreditation for our colleges. At the March board meeting, you heard an in-depth presentation on this subject, which included a panel representing the CEO board. Since that time, the CEO board, working in coordination with the Chancellor's office, has made significant progress in charting a path forward. Today, you will hear from Vice Chancellor Pam Walker and Los Rios Community College District Chancellor Brian King on this topic. So first, I'll turn over to Vice Chancellor Walker.
Board Member Baum, Vice President, or Board President Baum, Vice President Estelano, board members, and Chancellor Skinner. The important part of the work we're doing on accreditation is now moved from the work that Chancellor Harris had us work on, and a task force that was a significant contribution to the field. And then the CEOs, of course, had a very significant meeting with work that they now acknowledge that they need to do. And I would like to introduce Chancellor Brian King, who is chair of the CEOs this year and is moving the agenda for us on accreditation. This is our first opportunity to hear the work they're doing towards a July board meeting as well. Chancellor.
President Baum, Vice President Estelano, Interim Chancellor Skinner, and members of the Board of Governors. My name is Brian King. I serve as Chancellor of the Los Rios Community College District here in Sacramento. And as Vice Chancellor Walker said, have taken on an additional, seemingly full-time responsibility with accreditation. But fortunately, there are a lot of outstanding people working, and I want to thank several of them with the understanding that I will miss many people who are doing great work. But special thanks to the two conveners of our task forces, Chancellor Helen Benjamin from Contra Costa and Chancellor Cindy Miles from Grossmont Cuyamaca. They are working very hard, and the handout we've shared with you is also information that is now available, and I want to thank some others who have put this information on the League website. There's a link on the homepage to the League website, so thanks to Larry Galicio and Samantha DeMello for doing a really nice job making this information readily available. When I do updates, they are going very widely to our CEO group, and we also share that with faculty leadership. And so we're working really hard to communicate the good work going on, and that's the purpose of my time with you today, to provide an overview of the amazing amount of work that has taken place. Only 2 months ago, when you think about it, we shared the work that had been done by the CEO group at our retreat in early March. Then the Board of Governors meeting, we shared with you the formation of 2 work groups. And that's the right term for them. They're doing work. And work group number 1, chaired by Chancellor Benjamin, has already met twice. They met on April 21st and April 27th. And you see on the first page of the handout the charge of work group 1 and the list of member CEOs. So there are 11 members in addition to the convener. So 12 CEO members total, based on representation from our CEO areas. So we have leaders from across the state, and working, as well as keeping in mind that the Accrediting Commission doesn't just involve California community colleges. We also have John Zimmerman representing the private colleges, and our Academic Senate leadership working on work group 1. The third page of your handout has a list of the time frame and the meetings that have already happened for work group 1. And work group 1 has 5 separate groups, areas of focus, on the 5 areas that were identified in the initial work group, and they're actively at work. And if you look at their schedule of work, they We'll have a report concluded by June 1st, and then Helen, Cindy, and I will meet with ACCJC at their June meeting taking place on the 8th, 9th, and the 10th. At this point, we plan to meet with them both in closed session and in open session to share the work of the two work groups. And the fourth page is Work Group 2 with the long-range tasks, again, with CEOs from across the state stepping up as members of the commission to take on this responsibility, as well as a partner from University of Hawaii, a member, the Chancellor of Maui College, Louis Hokoana, is also participating. So the participation is broad, and we're trying to keep everyone informed of the work, and a very productive effort to that end was at the Trustees Conference statewide on April 30th. We had a panel that included many leaders, but I want to particularly acknowledge Board of Governors member Pamela Haynes, who served on that panel. We had good input and dialogue with trustees from across the state, and I think reassurance that the work is moving forward with all deliberate speed. So the deadlines that we've talked about for the work, the commission meeting in June, we look forward to a robust dialogue with the commissioners about how to move forward together. With the deadline of October 10th, the response to the Department of Education from the commission, a very important deadline to make sure that we work together to address the concerns from the Department of Education. And leadership is very important, and there are open seats on the commission. So our CEOs who are members who get to vote on the commission are paying very close attention to open seats on the commission. There are 3 community seats, a CEO seat, and a faculty seat. So we should always be paying attention, obviously, but that attention becomes focused when there are issues like this taking place. So a very important deadline will be the commission election at the end of this month, and then the new commissioners will be seated in November. So that's a quick overview of the work that is going on. I want to allow plenty of time for any questions you may have or any clarifications I could provide.
Thank you for making so much progress, and we don't know, it's uncharted waters in some ways, so we're looking forward to it. I want to open up to questions.
It is uncharted, but I also want to thank the support of the Board of Governors and the focus on accreditation. All of us working together are making a difference.
Member Belinsky?
As the two work groups come together and do their work, am I understanding correctly that there's not any kind of ongoing dialogue with the commission, but the next contact, so to speak, would be in June?
The next formal dialogue would be at the commission meeting. We are having regular contact with commissioners, including our CEO representatives, Raul Rodriguez and Sonia Christian. And I talk to President Bino probably weekly by phone, and also have regular email communications. So the communication piece is ongoing, but the formal communication would be at the commission.
When is the next election of members of the commission?
The nominations have closed, so the process is underway to propose a slate to the member, and those who get the vote are presidents of accredited colleges. For instance, I as a chancellor don't have a vote, but our 4 college presidents do. The slate will be finalized by the end of this week, and the elections will take place by the end of this month is the tentative schedule. The successful candidates will be seated in November, so there is some delay. The election happens now. The new commissioners will be seated in the fall.
It'll be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out as
It's
well.
very important to have, and the good news is that a large group of outstanding leaders have stepped forward to make themselves available to serve on the commission.
To order to continue to convey the message of the board, and I shared this in my public comments to the faculty, though, too. The Board of Governors does embrace a very rigorous peer review accreditation system, but the board does feel that there have been areas of grave concern about our current model of accreditation, and do want to see this process move forward, and appreciate the leadership of the CEOs in addressing and hopefully improving our model of accreditation so that will better serve the system, because the system and the Board of Governors have had an erosion of confidence in the status quo as it is.
I think that's very well said, President Baum, that it's not a desire to avoid rigor or accountability in accreditation. These efforts are about improving the process and addressing some complicated concerns that have evolved over a long period of time. And we're acknowledging a lot has happened in the last 60 days. That's not to in any way diminish the hard work for many years before that got us to the point where we had that catalytic moment to step forward and seize the reins.
So if you see there's a need for the board to speak more forcefully in moving things forward, because I do get worried that we'll get to a period of complacency, and I don't want to lose the momentum that we've built in this direction.
I can assure you that complacency is not an immediate worry for me. I think the energy and force is there for the foreseeable future.
Thank you. Member Epstein.
Hi, I have a question just about the board, our board, and the Chancellor's Office staff's involvement in this process. Can you explain kind of what the touch points are and how we were able to, and the staff is able to give input to this process?
As Vice Chancellor Walker talked, the task force that was convened by the Chancellor's Office, which was depending on how many you count, the most recent in a series of task forces, was an important role for the Chancellor's Office to bring together constituents from across, including everyone who needed to be involved to make the recommendations in the task force. Those recommendations, I think, were a stimulus for the CEO meeting in March and a recognition that the members of the commission are the presidents of our colleges. So I think appropriately, the presidents have stepped up and the CEOs to assume their responsibility in moving forward. At this point, we regularly communicate with the Chancellor's Office. Both Vice Chancellor Walker and Interim Chancellor Skinner are involved in these conversations. And the League is also involved, as I noted before, by having the website and having communication. So I think we're at a good point as far as our various roles. I know I've said communication 4 or 5 times, but nothing's more important than having the lines of communication open and being very transparent in communication. And when we're talking about improving communication for the Accrediting Commission, we need to model that sort of transparency and good communication. Did I answer your question?
I guess, is it the expectation that you'd be coming in here, or somebody would be coming in here every board meeting to report on the progress and to get our input into what the process is, what's been happening?
That has been our conversation, to report
It's
regularly.
my desire as a president of the Board of Governors and the seriousness of this issue to have a report at every board meeting, just like we did with the associate duties for transfer and others. It's some of these signature priorities that I don't want to lose track of.
We're happy to make regular reports. I have the benefit of living in town, so the travel is not an issue. And we absolutely want to keep the Board of Governors informed and apprised of the fact that the work is happening. I don't want you to be fearful about the complacency that President Baum talked about. The work is happening, and it's meaningful work, so we would be happy to report as regularly as you would like.
If I could just add on that, it is our plan to have the regular updates. The July meeting in particular, I think, will be a critical one. It'll follow the conversations between the work groups and the commission, and I think that will be an important update. I would just note the work that's happening now is exactly on the right track, and I think the board should have great confidence that what you began, what Chancellor Harris began in terms of a kind of a serious reevaluation of how accreditation is working for our system, has launched a very productive phase of that I'm quite optimistic we're going to end up at a place with a vastly improved model of accreditation. Until the situation has kind of reached a new steady state, I think it is important for the board to get those regular updates so that you're informed and can continue to provide appropriate oversight and input into the work. Although I would say the CEOs being the representatives to the commission, they are truly the appropriate body to be the tip of the spear on this at this point in terms of guiding this work of reforming accreditation. They're really the most legitimate voice to go to the commission and have that conversation. And I think this strategy that's been developed where the CEO's at the lead, working with you, working with the Chancellor's office is the right one.
Member Sumner.
One thing I would like to see is, in the past, we saw a challenge where we didn't get a response back from them, and I'd like to see maybe, annually or whatever, how they're responding back to what you were working on, so we can sort of see that, because that was sort of a void we had the last time. We want to see how their response is, and I just think that's really important.
Any further questions? Thank you very much, and
Thank you.
appreciate everybody's work on that. We're going to move on to item 4.4, a state and federal legislative update. If Vice Chancellor Stewart is, or should we go on to,
Mario might be ready.
we're ready on item 4.5, the May, but
Sounds good.
yes. We're going to move on to item 4.5, the May revise, and there should be lots of news to share on that.
President Baum and members of the board, the next item is the update on the governor's May revision proposal that was released on Friday of last week. And as Mario pulls up to the mic to present again, I would just give him kudos. He's stepped up in this role as the acting vice chancellor in college finance and has done a phenomenal job. His background is in the state budget. He's got tremendous relationships, not only in the Department of Finance, but in the Capitol, the governor's office, and the legislature. So you're well represented there, and you're about to hear Mario's observations on the governor's recent budget proposal.
Great, thanks again. So just to kind of set the page in mind, the governor releases his budget in January.
Hey, go to the middle one.
This one better?
Go ahead.
All right, perfect. The budget's actually good, even though that's kind of a bad sign. This one? This better?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so just keep in mind, the governor releases his initial budget in January that outlines his policies and priorities for the upcoming year, the 16-17 fiscal year. There's a series of hearings, there's a series of input from stakeholders, and then he has a chance to update his budget mid-May. We're just beginning to kind of peel through everything and kind of get an analysis. Keep in mind he has to release it by May 14th. That was a Saturday. He released it on Friday the 13th. So we've kind of had a long weekend kind of diving through everything. We have a lot of adjustments in our area. The dollars-wise, as far as Prop 98 is concerned, not much change, which is not necessarily a bad thing because we've seen a significant increase from the prior year budget in January. So we've already seen a big increase. What changed more than anything else was just a slight change on some of the priorities. And I'll walk you through this document that we provided. So this is something that we communicate to the field. We communicate this to the field to kind of give them an early preview of what's in the budget, and I think it summarizes things pretty nicely. So for this first section on apportionments, keep in mind apportionments are the base funding for the college. This is what helps them do the majority of the work they do. One thing that we had in the current year's budget that was missing from the initial January budget proposal for next year was in the current year we had a $267 million increase to the base, meaning that sits on top of, that's basically money for the college to continue doing work to adjust to cost increases that we've seen over the years. So if you remember, during the downturn, we lost about $1 billion of purchasing power in our apportionments through not receiving COLA. In addition to that, there's also when the state decided to actually reduce the deficit in our pension system, CalPERS and CalSTRS, a primary way of doing that was increasing the employer rates. On community colleges alone, that'll be over a $400 million increase. And so when you add those two together, that's $1.4 billion plus of purchasing power that our community colleges could potentially lose. And so this year, in the current year budget, the $267 million we received for a base increase, coupled with the $75 million that the governor proposed in the May revise, are a good step in the right direction. So that was the system probably single largest key priority to get achieved during this budget, and we've made some headway. One other good point on apportionments was the governor's budget, or the May revise maintained the 2% growth in fund and apportionments. Now, you're going to notice that some places far north aren't really growing. However, we do have places of the state, Southern California, Los Angeles, San Diego area, Central Valley, Kern, State Center, Fresno. Those areas are growing. So while growth is uneven, we still need growth for apportionment funding. In the facilities area, the governor reduced the amount of deferred maintenance funding that was provided in the budget. However, we had come from nearly $300 million, which was probably somewhat high. Sometimes you have a line item in the budget that becomes your balancer. If you keep in mind, Prop 98 is a minimum guarantee, so that you fund all the priorities you really want to fund, and then when you need to fill up that bucket a little bit more, you choose a balancer. And so it appears that was the balancer for the governor. So he brought it down to fund that base increase primarily. So even though it's brought down a little bit, it's still at a significant number of $219 million, which is more than the roughly $175 we received in this year's budget. So that's still a good number. On the instructional side, what we've seen was this was a request from this board, and also something we pitched pretty heavily to the Department of Finance, which was providing some funding for the Academic Senate to continue their operations. The Academic Senate has been a fantastic partner on a whole host of issues, ADTs, the Workforce Task Force, and so this money is going to be there to support them, so that way we can ensure that they have full inclusion into all the committees that we're going to be forming, not only in the past, but also in upcoming for the Workforce Task Force. So a big portion here of funding in the governor's budget was an increase of $30 million to the basic skills program. The governor set out a new funding formula for the program, and he provided $30 million for it. The proposal didn't change, so it's not, the May revise was silent on it, but it's still in the budget. This proposal is going to be something that's likely to shift quite a bit in the next phase of the budget, which is the legislative process. I think our system has expressed significant concerns with tying performance measures to basic skills students. There's a lot of ways to get that wrong, and it needs a careful study. And so I think we're going to be, seeing this shift a little bit, and we're going to be working with both houses and the governor to make sure we get that proposal right. But keep in mind that $30 million is something we're completely supportive of. More money for basic skills students is completely in line with the board. On the technology front, two pretty unique initiatives and things that we support. There was $20 million provided in one-time resources to support building out the inventory of courses that are in our online education initiative. We had just learned about this proposal on Friday. We're working together with the administration and the legislature to see exactly how we can implement that, to make sure that everybody is on the same page as far as expectations, but that's something that we completely support. There was about $5 million in ongoing resources and $7 million in one-time resources to build out the capacity of our system as far as networks, or our system network. A lot of times when the state invests in all these new technology initiatives, we forget to invest in the infrastructure as well. And so this money will help support and make sure that the online education initiative, the e-planning, e-transcripts initiatives, all those are actually working well at our campuses. And then finally, while there's no dollar change to the workforce initiative, the $200 million we had for that, there were substantive changes to the requirements that will be placed on there. And then we're still kind of working through and trying to figure out if those were improvements or if those are things we need to bring up more. One of those is that it calls out the Chancellor's office to bring forth some recommendations on how quickly we can get. It tells us we need to find a pathway that curriculum can be approved in roughly 6 months and then roughly a year. It talks about curriculum portability and to bring recommendations for it that would, if curriculum's approved at one campus, that it can be ported to another campus across the state. It requires a 60-40 split between the regions, and so keep in mind the governor's budget had all the money going to the regions, and stayed silent on what amount would go directly to colleges once it hit the regions versus stay at the regional level. This requires that 40% of the dollars stay at the region and that 60% go to the college. It requires that no more than 60% of the funding at a college can be used on ongoing activities. So the pitch and the truth behind why CTE is more expensive is because it has two primary cost drivers. One is that they generally have lower student to faculty ratio courses, and so there's a fiscal disincentive to offering it at times, but then there's also a whole host of one-time costs that are associated with it. You wouldn't believe how expensive those smart dummies can be, right, on those health classes. And if it's a welding class, there's certain ventilation that they have to have. All those costs really add up, and they're really more or less one-time in nature, but they're just recurring so frequently. And so this is the administration's attempt to say, we want to make sure the state continues to be able to invest in those one-time costs. And then the last thing, which is particular just to one district, but I think it's worthy of noting because of our role in that district. Compton Community College, when they took out loans from the state in I think 2005, 2006, 2007, they took them at a much higher interest rate than the interest rate we have now. And so we were able to work with the Department of Finance to get them to basically refinance their loans to a much lower interest rate, 2.307%. And so that's just money going back into the classroom and helping them invest in the things they need to invest in to get fully accredited again. So the next step in the process is going to be obviously our office and the system advocates working with the legislature to make sure the things that we do like in this budget are kept in, and then work on a few other issues. Both houses will close out their budgets, I believe, this week, and then we'll head for conference committee, and there's likely to be a budget by July 1st. So with that, any questions?
Thank you very much. Opening up for questions, Member Shaw, then Member Hawkins.
I was just curious as to why Compton waited so long to refinance.
You know, it's been an issue that I know it hasn't been the first time they brought it up. Sometimes it's just it's like many other issues. Like, you know, for instance, the $300,000 for the academic senate. We've been pushing that issue for a few years now, and so sometimes it's just the way getting the message across in a manner that gets us action. So it's not the first time they've pitched it. It's not the first time our office has pitched refinancing for them, but we got it done.
Thank you.
Yes, I was saying, helps having a former member of the Department of Finance staff on our staff as well, doing that. Member Hawkins.
Thank you. There's quite a bit of one-time money in the revise. Has there been any discussion? I know it's preliminary conversations, but will this be handled as it's been in the past, that all 72 districts will share equally? Or is there any issue that the 6 basic aid districts might be carved out?
The basic aid districts will be carved out on anything related to apportionments that flows to the apportionment. Yeah, and so the one-time monies in the budget are for the mandates reimbursement, and also for the deferred maintenance funding, which will also flow to basic aid districts as well as general state-supported districts as well. So they're covered.
Member Epstein?
I have a question about the basic skills. There's a $30 million increase in the governor's budget, and is that the rough equivalent of the $60 million that we talked about earlier today?
No, it's obviously for the same purpose. The budget in the current year provided $60 million of one-time money to develop this transformation program that you guys heard about earlier in the agenda. This new program is somewhat linked to it, and it's obviously being proposed, but it's linked to it in the sense that in order to receive funding as the way it's currently constructed in proposed trailer bill language, you would have to have at least submitted an application or agreed to submit an application by the end of the upcoming year. And so What the administration is looking for is they're saying, we've had this 20 or so $1 million ongoing for basic skills. If we ramp up those dollars, put in one-time money to start that transformation change, and then tie the ongoing funding to actually have done the change. So they're linked together in that sense, but it's technically a different program.
So this is 30 million in permanent funding. Is that 30 in addition to the 20?
Exactly, so about 50 million.
So you had the $60 million to kind of pilot a bunch of new programs, and then $50 million a year to implement them.
Exactly.
Chancellor?
And if I could just briefly add on to that, I think that we definitely endeavor in the Chancellor's office, even though they are separate programs technically in the budget, I think it's beneficial for the system and our colleges and our students to operate them in a way that's integrated and aligned. So I think that, Mario did a great job. The bottom line is, the $60 million are these one-time transformation grants. The $20 million, which is under the governor's proposal turning into $50 million, is the ongoing component of essentially the same program, in the sense of that's the ongoing engine that's going to keep that initiative moving forward. But in terms of the reporting, the structure, the goals of these programs, it's one basic skills initiative.
Member Avalos and then Member Khan.
Thank you very much, Vice Chancellor Rodriguez. So one of the things I really liked before is that we would have a table, and it showed what was the proposal, and then a revise, and then the next one. So next time you come up, can you have that sense of table so we can get a sense of what's changed, what hasn't changed? It's just easier to understand dialogue.
Will do.
But thank you.
Member Khan?
I had a question regarding the proposed or the changes made to the zero textbook cost degree. I just wanted to get your input. What do you feel was the either the inspiration or the rationale for changing this from just being a dollar amount grant that's given out to colleges on a pilot basis, being a little bit more proscriptive with language including things like financial sustainability of the degree? I just want to get your feedback on that.
Yeah, so it was always going to be a grant program, a competitive grant program to districts that had an interest in developing these degree pathways. The LEO had written a pretty extensive paper on this. They pick an issue or two or three that they're going to write about. They wrote a pretty extensive paper that pointed out a lot of the changes that finance ultimately made, or the governor ultimately made. But also there's certain things in there that, for instance, faculty purview, that was a request of our academic senate, something that we supported as well. So it's kind of a mix between listening to the stakeholders and then also the LEO's paper on it.
Vice President Estolano? Are there any other members of the board who have questions? Vice President Estolano, are there members of the public who wish to address the board on this topic?
Yes. I'm going to read 3 names. Joe Wise, followed by Richard Hansen.
I'm Superintendent President, thank you. Superintendent President of Shasta College up in Reading, and a member of the CEO CCC board with the league. And I just wanted to make a couple of comments. One on the base increase. I was very pleased with the work that the league and the Chancellor's office did to advocate for that. It's very important from a college perspective. For example, at Shasta College, 2 years ago, approximately our STRS contribution as an employer was about $1.3 million. By the time the law is fully implemented in about 2020, it'll approach $3 million for the same level of employment. And so just to give you an example of that $300,000 or so increase each year we face. So the base is a very important priority for us. 2 other quick things. One, I think that chart's available on the league website. If you go to the ccleague.org website, the comparison chart is available there under the Budget and Policy Center. Thought I'd pass that along. And then finally, I do have a little bit of concern still with the workforce, the $200 million proposal. I thought the league, as a CEO, CCC board, we had a pretty good middle of the road approach to the split. And part of the concern I have representing the far north is how far apart we are. A regionalized program, sorry about the static. A regionalized program is difficult if you're traveling, say, from College of the Redwoods up in Eureka. A program here in our far north region isn't very accessible if you're an adult with kids who can't move. That's about a 5-hour drive or more. So sometimes the idea of regionalization is very good, and we want to coordinate, and sometimes it's not as practical as in maybe some other areas. But we're very happy with the idea and the support for the workforce, and so I just thought I'd bring up that's concern and possible advocacy area. That's all I have.
Okay, we have Richard Hansen, followed by Lynette Niaga, and yeah, I'd suggest you try that seat.
If that doesn't work, we'll use the handheld mic because we know that's working fine.
I could use my teaching voice. Well, good morning. You're moving right through the agenda, and I want to talk about particularly the lack of the full-time item that we were pursuing. It's a shame that it's not in there. Maybe we can get some of the other ongoing money that still is in the budget shifted toward that purpose. For two reasons. One is the need for the full-time faculty to support all of these programs that we're being asked to pursue, but then also in support of you're going to hear it in item 4.6, the Equal Opportunity Program. That's really driven by this infusion of money we got this year to hire new faculty, and the system is making a huge effort to accelerate, get more serious about, really go after equalizing opportunity. And along those lines, too, I'll just briefly mention part-time faculty issues. I've been saying, as we've been having these discussions at consultation, that if we really want to attract quality new faculty into the system, and the entry door so often is through a part-time position, you've got to improve those positions. They've got to be more serious. They've got to pay better. They've got to have some job security, because those folks will go elsewhere rather than come to the community colleges and face that kind of uncertainty. So I would like to, though, thank Mario and the team for all the work on getting that base funding. I think we won that argument, and with the COLA being zeroed out, and understand that's just a calculation, and so that's been zeroed out, but we're still getting an infusion to address some of that lost purchasing power. So I'm very appreciative of that, but we will still try to find some of that ongoing money that is still in that deferred maintenance area to maybe fund these badly needed full-time faculty positions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Lynette Niaga, followed by Jonathan Lightman.
Good morning.
I would like to just speak briefly on the workforce money. The 60-40 split is much better than the way it started out, and I would also like to thank Mario for the work that he's done with the Department of Finance. I know that what I'm concerned about is that we often have influxes of money, infusions of money, and we don't have the oversight that we need to make sure the money goes to the students, which is where it really needs to go. I have seen many cases where outside consultants are hired, and a lot of the money goes to those outside consultants, and then the programs are starved, they don't work, and then when they don't work, the taxpayers and the legislature says, well, you see, we gave them all this money, and they didn't do what they promised. So what I would like is to bring to your attention a request that we're going to make, that there be some oversight process. And I know the workforce, I know Vice Chancellor Von Quinlivan is very aware of this. to make sure that the money goes to students and to programs, not to the administration more than is needed to just make the programs work. So that's my concern that I would like to share with you today.
Thank you.
Jonathan Lightman, followed by David Morse.
Thank you, Mr. President and Chancellor Skinner and members of the Board of Governors, Jonathan Lightman on behalf of the Faculty Association, California Community Colleges. I do want to align our comments with Rich Hansen and also support what Lynette Niaga said about the improvement on the workforce money. Going back to the issue of the full and part-time faculty, I would like to suggest a narrative here, which is to say, we've had a number of themes over the years, the student success and the workforce, and those are all very positive. We do need to simplify our message, which is to say, how are we doing in the realm of teaching and learning, and what does that require? And very specifically, 56% of credit instruction taught by full-time faculty is insufficient to say that we're doing a good job. And point of fact, when we say, well, it's going to be next year, and next year never arrives. Well, actually, in the current year, we did get an infusion, and that money will go far, but it's going to take multiple infusions. Part-time faculty, we have 40,000, teaching way too high of a percentage of our course load, and we've been trying for years, even to start with something that honestly should be a no-brainer, and that is office hours. $3.6 million would take to restore what was lost in 2009, but frankly, it's actually even higher infusion, and that would help a little bit towards the compensation. We have a month to go prior to this budget being put to rest, and we should not set our values aside to say, well, this is what the governor has offered, this is what we need to take wholesale. We need to fight for what makes sense in the realm of teaching and learning. The flip side of that, of course, is our students, and Cal grants are very important to that. So I would also like to thank Interim Vice Chancellor Rodriguez, did a fabulous job. I'd like to also say that it's wonderful that there's money for the Academic Senate, and we look forward in being a partner with you during the next month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last card I have is from David Morse.
President Baum, Chancellor Skinner, and board members. So first off, I would echo the comments of my faculty colleagues regarding the importance of full-time faculty, but they have made that case already, so I will just throw my support behind those comments. I would note, Vice Chancellor Rodriguez noted on the basic skills money, the performance-based funding aspect of that, which I do think that the new trailer bill language is greatly improved over where it started, so we absolutely appreciate that. But he was correct. There is when you start giving the money to the districts that are performing the highest, then the rich get richer, and the money does not go to the colleges that really need it for the sake of improvement. So there is a definite issue there. But again, I do think that the trailer bill language is significantly improved in that respect, so we certainly appreciate that. I also do want to thank Vice Chancellor Rodriguez, the Chancellor's office, for the support of the funding for the Academic Senate. We have been asking for that again for a few years, and we're extremely happy to see that there. And want to thank our colleagues, some of the other organizations. We were also supported for that by CCLC, by FAC, by a number of the other organizations, and we greatly appreciate that support. And appreciate a lot of the changes and the ways in which the Academic Senate's role is indicated in the strong workforce bill, trailer bill language in terms of consultation with the Academic Senate. So those are very important things to us, things that we appreciate greatly. I do want to just urge that we continue, and I realize this is a fast turnaround, but that we continue working with some aspects of that strong workforce language. There are aspects of the language that I think are trying to do very good things, but maybe setting up and asking for things to be done at the state level that the Chancellor's office really is not in a position to do. And we have seen in the past that when through legislation, we are asked to accomplish things that we cannot accomplish from the state level, what you get is a stall. And you get nothing done because we spend time trying to fulfill a bill that we cannot fulfill and not working on the things that we would like to be able to do. And some of those things have to do with things like streamlining curriculum. The Chancellor's office is not, I am sure, going to impose one statewide curriculum process for all 72 districts, but that's what it would have to do to meet certain aspects of that bill. And so we will end up spinning our wheels rather than doing the very necessary and important curriculum streamlining and revision that we would like to be able to do. So I think there are some aspects of the bill that still need to be worked on, and we look forward to working with Vice Chancellor Rodriguez and the Chancellor's office in terms of addressing those things.
Are there any, so we have no other members of the public, or do any board members have any questions about issues that were raised about the May revise as a result of the public comment? I do want to, just ask the question because I raised that in my address to the system too. It is year after year we talk about full-time faculty obligation. What tools does the budget present in order to encourage full-time faculty hiring in instruction?
Two primary ways you can increase full-time faculty are obviously through the augmentation of $62 million received in the current year's budget, which is just you don't need to add any more course sections, just higher, your ratio should increase of full-time to part-time. We've only received that, I think, in 2 years since we started this faculty obligation number. That's my understanding. And so that's the primary method. It's not always that likely, although I just want to make clear we're very supportive of that, and I'm pushing that as my number one priority, as your number one priority. The second way is through growth funding. The FON works based on if you grow 2%, your faculty, full-time faculty obligation number has to grow by 2% as well. So that's another way. The third way in this budget is the workforce money. Like I said in my comments, one of the primary things that those funds are meant to address is to remove that fiscal disincentive of colleges who have those CTE courses with a very low student to faculty ratio. So to the extent they're willing to offer more course sections with those resources because that fiscal incentive is no longer there or it's minimized, that will lead likely to more full-time faculty. But obviously the most direct path is full-time faculty money, and that's what we have not seen in this budget. We're still working on it.
I just hope we continue. We usually get a report on the status of each campus on full-time faculty hiring, and are they meeting their obligation? And I hope that leads to a more robust discussion. But it is the belief the board does want to do what it can to encourage and enforce an increase in full-time faculty. Member Avalos.
Just one quick question, Mr. Rodriguez. So when I look at the line item that was pointed out to me, I'm actually on the website now. I look at triple SP equity. Last year we spent $155 million. What are we doing this year? Is that going to stay the same? Is that going to change? Where are we with that?
Yeah, no reductions, no changes to that amount of funding. I think we've heard from the system of basically 3 years of rapid increases that we just need to kind of take a break and keep that funding where it is and let everybody kind of digest that a little bit and make sure that program's being implemented effectively, and then at future years we'll kind of see if we need more.
And then on triple SP, we ended up last year at 299. I think we asked for 50 more. Is that correct?
I think the initial ask was for in our official Board of Governors request was 50. But since then we've kind of we've heard from a lot of colleges, even the CSSO organization, saying let's take maybe a break for a year. Let us digest that.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Member Ballyman.
I have a question about the prior mandate claims. How much is still in the balance that we haven't gotten paid?
There's, I want to say it's over 100 million. I don't know the exact number. Now, the thing with that is per budget bill language, or per trailer bill language in the budget, those funds will be given out on a per FTS basis, so everybody will get their equal share. The majority of the claims are associated with a recently decided mandate case, minimum conditions for state aid. It's a very expensive case. Only about 7 districts applied for it. So we have roughly 7 districts that make up a bulk of that over $100 million, yet money will be given out equally. That's been a concern of the LAO, that the dollars don't necessarily match where the debt is. But I think the governor's very committed to saying everyone has one-time needs. The benefit it provides to mandates are secondary to everybody getting their fair share of discretionary funding.
And then my other question, thank you, is, isn't our split of the Proposition 98 minimum guarantee 11%? Why are they so hesitant to give us that 0.07%?
It's technically 10.93%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Didn't know
and
that.
for simplicity purposes, we just say 11.
Okay,
But
thank you.
technically 10.93.
Okay, didn't know that. Well, then that's good news. Thank you.
Any other board member questions? Well, thank you very much. This is the first time we've had you here for the May revise, and Chancellor, I want to thank you. It seems like during a very challenging budget time, and we heard the message from the governor loud and clear, but it seems like we were able to preserve a sufficient funding for community colleges. Thank you very much. Okay, it's about 5 minutes to noon. We are going to reconvene our board in closed session, and then we expect to return for public session at 1 o'clock or shortly thereafter. So we're going to recess to closed session for the board and plan to reconvene in open session at 1 o'clock.
Sounds good. And we're going to clear the room so that you've got privacy in there. So.
Oh, fantastic.